Marketing the Mind States. It's Will Leach and his book. Well, actually, his book is Marketing the Mind States. See back there. And this show is called the Mind. What do we call this
The
show?
Mindstate Marketing Hour, man. What's going on with you today? I can see behind you. You put a lot of pictures of me and stuff like that. So I think you're focusing too much on your background. I like it. Look at those pictures of me. You did a great job.
Yeah.
All right.
So that was back when I think you just kind of graduated college. Look how young.
I didn't have my ball cap. That's how you knew I was in college. I had a ball cap that was covering up my balding.
So, Will, how are you doing? It's another episode of the Mindstate Marketing Hour. Right there. See, I've got the stuff to actually confirm I'm in the right place, the Mindstate Marketing Hour. That's right. And it's with who? It's with Will Leach. And he's the author of Marketing the Mind States. And if you don't have this book, then look, you're failing. If you're in marketing and you don't have his book, then I'm telling you, you're doing it wrong. The big concept that hit me was that we go through our day and we're in all these different moods and we approach decisions in a certain state of mind. And we're not in that same state of mind on every decision and all day long. And if we can know as marketers, what's the state of mind that our prospects are evaluating our solution, then wouldn't we create better messaging? And the answer is yes. And you'll learn about it in Will's book. Will, where did that book come from?
That book came from close to 20 years of research in the consumer insights and behavioral psychology space for many, many, many years in corporate America to dissect what makes brands iconic, what makes advertising iconic, how do people make decisions in the grocery stores. And I took all that insight, all that information, and put it together in a book so that anybody can use these principles in their business, regardless of whatever business you're in.
Well, look, somebody's saying y'all look like twins.
Well, it is advertising day, Steve. So if we're going to talk about advertising, we must wear black T-shirts, black turtlenecks. If it was a little bit warmer or colder, we would both wear black turtlenecks with the glasses. So here, not by accident.
We'll make a little change here so that you're not wondering which one's Will. Okay,
yeah, that's probably what it is.
Will's the one over there. He's over there. So, Will, today's topic is really interesting. Yeah. Building iconic advertising that breaks through the clutter. And when you think about the journey that a brand goes on, is like first you kind of start off and you go, hey, I think I got something here. And then you get affirmation from your customers, from your employees. You see that this thing's starting to have momentum, has some legs, people actually appreciating what you're doing here. Yep. And then you kind of go, I wonder what's different about my brand as all the other competing brands. And I think this is leading to an excellent conversation.
That's right. That's the issue. I get asked all the time, Steve, well, how do I get my ad to break through? How do I get my ad to get the best ROI? And that's a very difficult question to answer because there's so many variables. So what I wanted to do today was talk to you about some foundational principles, some things that you need to have kind of ingrained in your culture, ingrained in your company, so that when the day comes where you have to design advertising, that you have these foundational kind of tenets, these principles already established so that your advertising is set up for success before you even start writing, before you even go to an advertising agency. So that is, I think the best way to get to iconic advertising is to do some pre-work before you ever have those discussions and get you into a better place.
So when you think of iconic, the brands that are iconic, they pay their dues. They've done their work, and for some reason they've landed on something that is unique about them, that people actually start to see their brand and make it a part of their self-identity. And it's from this iconic feeling, So I wouldn't, there's a new coffee shop here called Dutch Brothers Coffee. I never heard of them, but I'm not going to go out and get a tattoo of Dutch Brothers Coffee after having a coffee. But You see people with Harley Davidson tattoos. There's Johnny Cupcake tattoos. There are brands that make that. Why? Why does that happen?
Yeah, I will tell you, it's that, just as you said, that if a brand is iconic to you as an individual, it is helping you to create or support your self-identity. And it doesn't just mean that you have to be Harley Davidson with a advertising budget of millions and millions of dollars, or a brand like Iron Man brand, right, where people get tattoos of the Iron Man logo after very long stints of training and these incredible experiences they put on. Any brand can be iconic. It's just a matter of, and it doesn't matter how big you are, it doesn't matter how much you spend on advertising. What does matter is, just as you said, it's the purpose behind your brand, and whether your customer identifies with that in such a way that they just can't help but tell other people about it because it's a part of their own self-identity. So it doesn't mean spending a lot of money on marketing, but it does mean having some time and thoughtfulness behind your brand. And those are the things we're going to talk about.
All right. So some of the hurdles that you have are that your customers are exposed to thousands of ads per day.
That's right. I always love starting with this, Steve, because I don't think we realize the amount of advertising we all see every single day. And these, by the way, are not brand impressions. These are actual advertisements that somebody is paying for to try to grab your attention. So if on average, your customer is seeing 6,000, maybe even as many as 10,000 advertisements in a day, that the vast majority of your advertising is never seen. Why? Because there's just too many ads out there. So, what I want to do is give business owners, give coaches, give consultants the ability to build foundations so that no matter what ad they have, they can increase their chances of their ad breaking through the 6,000 to 10,000 advertisements that are out there. And it doesn't mean spending more on advertising. In fact, sometimes I tell people you shouldn't be spending as much as you are, because every ad you're putting out there has no breakthrough potential. Why? Because there's no thoughtfulness behind it. So with these foundations I'm going to teach you, it will help you gain greater breakthrough for your ads. And every time you get a breakthrough ad, you are much more likely to grow your business.
So, all right. So I don't even know what this term means. Backcasting. Is that like a backstory?
It is. Cool. That's interesting. No, not really. I was trying to figure out a way to help you out there, but no, it's not. So
I need a lot of help.
There's a lot of terms out there that are similar to this, but the idea of backcasting actually started in the 60s under John Kennedy, when he made this big proclamation that we'll be on the moon within the next decade. So what you do is, when you have an overall goal that you have, which oftentimes, for this case, it was like go to the moon. You don't just go, okay, so I have a decade to get to the moon. How do I get there? Backcasting allows you to create a plan to get there. What it does is it says, okay, we know in year 10, we want to be on the moon. What needs to be there so that on year 9, we have everything required to be able to make our launch in year 10. And then from that, okay, now that we know the requirements in year 9, what needs to be in place in year 8 so that we can meet the requirements in 9? So what you do is, if you keep looking at that structure, it finally tells you what is required today to make your dreams come true tomorrow. That's backcasting. It's just kind of a way of looking at the world. There's no difference in, if you want to do iconic branding, you don't start with, how do I build an iconic brand? Let me just learn what's going on at YouTube, or let me read a new book on branding. You have to backcast your way to doing the things that you're required, so that now you are ready kind of with all these foundational things that you need for iconic branding, so that when you go and do branding, advertising, whether that's a year from now or a month from now, it's ready to go. So what I've done is done some backcasting for you. And I did this over at PepsiCo. I was tasked basically with understand what makes the most prolific, most profound advertising from a behavioral psychology perspective. So I did all of this work. And in this, I kind of came up with these 5 foundations that I see are really important and critical to get advertising that gets through breakthrough and get these breakthrough results. So I've done the backcasting for you, and I'm going to show you now with what I determined out of that work. Backcasting.
I'm going to start saying that. And they'll go,
this sounds really cool too.
Yeah. Did you say bat casting?
No. That's right.
Yeah. Number 1.
All right. Number one is you must absolutely know your timeless purpose behind your brand. If you want to be an iconic brand, if you want to have an iconic business, a company, that people are aware of, that you're worthy of praise and attention, you got to have a timeless purpose. And what I mean by that there is that it is the real powerful reason why you chose to do what you're doing today. So, one of the things here, it's like kind of your core why. There was a day when you decided to go out on your own, to start your business, or to take the job you have. And there is a moment in time where you said, the world is broken, or there is something out here. There's an opportunity out here that I'm drawn towards, that I think that I can change for the better. And so because of that, you took the ultimate leap to go out on your own and to start a business. Now, you may not remember that day. That's why I want to teach you 2 exercises you can get to that day. But it's understanding your core why. Why is that important? Is because people don't give a damn about businesses. What they do care about are businesses that have a purpose, that has a higher level of standard, something that they can appeal to help create that self-identity. So people don't build self-identity around businesses. They build their self-identity around the purpose of a business. So you may be thinking about, well, okay, some people know their purpose. They know it inside and out. There are other people that maybe they just bought a franchise and they don't really know the core purpose of it. What they did know is that it was a profitable business. There's nothing wrong with that, by the way. What is important now is to try to create that purpose. Why should you go to work every day? What are you bringing to the world? There's 2 ways you can do this. One is called an obituary exercise. It's a classic technique. What you do is you pretend that your brand or your business dies and you're having a funeral for it. And you're going to write the obituary for it and literally go through this exercise. Because what happens is when you write an obituary, like if you're going to write an obituary for a newspaper, what you tend to do is reflect on the best qualities of the person or the best qualities of, in this case, the business and what they brought to the world. So the best parts of an obituary aren't the dates and who, kind of the dates that you were born and the dates that you died. What's most important is those little stories, the thing that made you unique to the world. So if you do an obituary exercise and write this out for you, you are more likely to find your brand purpose or your timeless purpose. A second thing you can do is a basic laddering exercise, which is helping, and I do this a lot, and I teach you this actually in Marketing to Mindstates. A laddering exercise will help you understand what truly is your we call it aspirational goals, or what is your timeless purpose. So here's what you do. And I just actually recently did this for a buddy of mine. He owns a budget blinds franchise. So you may be thinking, budget blinds, like what is the purpose of a budget blinds? And he thought the same thing. He's a franchise guy. He bought into a franchise, and with that franchise, he's like, hey, it's a profitable business model. I think I can do some great things for my family. I'm going to go and do this. But he wants iconic advertising. So what you do is, the first thing you do is on a laddering exercise, you say, what do you sell? And here's what he sells. He sells blinds that are great value, good quality, great value, right? That's what he does. Blinds on a budget. Cool. Then here's what you do. You take what you sell and you say, what's the benefit of that? And answer that question. And when you answer that question, he may come up with, I rewrote this idea around, well, blinds are actually, they shield you. They give you privacy for your family. They shield you from the outside elements like the sun and wind and things like that. So really blinds are about kind of shielding the outside out, keeping the outside out for privacy. It's okay. So what's the benefit of that? Why do people care about privacy? Why does that matter? So you ladder it twice. When you ladder that twice, he came up to this idea of, well, when you have privacy, it allows you to create like a sanctuary in your home where your home is the people in your home, the people you love, they're protected. Because of that, his timeless purpose is centered around this idea of making a house into a home, or making a home into a sanctuary for families. That is a much stronger purpose that many people can relate to on an emotional level. This idea of it's important for you to create a sanctuary where your family and your friends can feel safe and feel open and feel excited to be there. That is some purpose that you can draw on for your advertising.
Excellent. You think when you go buy a franchise, like, all right, I'm trying to figure out how to pay the bills and what's my best opportunity here to pick a winner. And then you start off, but there in that backcasting, there was a reason why you decided to not do a job and actually put yourself out there, put it on the line and risk everything. And that's a beginning of where your why is derived from. And I think this next point, own your distinct point of view. There's some reason in that why that you have a point of view of why you think you can do it better than others.
That's exactly right. And these go in order. That's exactly right. So a distinct point of view, and then let's go into the case of the blinds company. So even if you have a purpose, and that purpose is, as a sanctuary, you're trying to provide sanctuary people's homes. Well, there are other people and other companies that can say the same thing. They can have the same exact purpose. So if you're going to compete on advertising, what does that do? If you don't have a distinct point of view on how you specifically can create a sanctuary, this allows other people to come in and then take share from you, right? There's no breakthrough because there's more crowded. And I know this personally with my own company, because there was, for the first 4 or 5 years of my company, I had very little competition. So my purpose was enough. Then what happened was people saw that there's an opportunity in the marketplace, and then I needed to create a stronger point of view and message that point of view. So owning your distinct point of view on how you're going to provide your purpose is a strong and incredibly important thing you need for breakthrough advertising. So the way I found my distinct point of view, and I always recommend this to people, is find 2 of your passions, your business passions, and find a way to merge those things together. Because if you are just going to be, let's say, an expert, and like say you are the very best social media expert, and you're trying really hard for that expertise. The problem with that is that lots of people can say they're also social media expertise. So that's not a very unique, distinct point of view. However, if you have another passion, maybe it's technology, maybe it's relationships. I don't know what that is. But if you have 2 passions, it's very difficult to get somebody who can claim those 2 same passions and create the same point of view as you. So when you create 2 things together, that actually creates distinction. Very difficult to replicate. Doesn't necessarily require you to do that, but it worked for me. So here's what I did. Remember, my purpose for starting my company was that technology was making it to where anybody can be a marketer and they could send messages to anyone, anywhere in the world, anytime, any place they are, right? Technology has done that. That's why you're seeing 6,000 to 10,000 advertisements every single day. There's too much of it. Because there's so many advertisers who don't know what they're doing, they've created a lot of clutter, and marketing sucks right now. And it's invasive, it's confusing, and it creates a lot of stress, and it creates avoidance. People don't like marketing, and they don't like the businesses that do marketing. So my purpose was, I want to make marketing, make marketing better. Marketing's broken. I want to make it better. My distinct point of view, how was I going to do that? My distinct point of view is I have 2 passions in life, guys. I love behavioral science. It's what I think about all the time. And I love business, and I love marketing specifically. So what I did is I took these 2 passions and I merged those together. It took me a couple of years to figure out the right way to do that. And I created a distinct point of view. I believe that I can change marketing using behavioral sciences. And I have a very distinct, very ownable point of view of that. Why? It's the second part. Once you have a distinct point of view, you have to create a model or a framework to communicate your point of view. You can't just say, man, I think it's behavioral science and marketing. Come work with me. No, you need something that's ownable that you can actually protect. So I created a model. And my model, you guys know, is a 4-factor model. If you want to learn more about that model, it's in the book, Marketing to Mind States. It's very clear that there are 4 things in my model that it's critical for you to use or for you to know so you can make breakthrough marketing. Then from there, once you have a model or a framework or something that people can look at and go, wow, that is very different than anything I've ever seen before. Now you got to own it, make it ownable, which means you better name it and you better get it trademarked. Because when you do that, then people can't copy. And if you do those 3 things, if you merge your 2 passions, you actually go create a model or a framework, a pyramid, I don't care what it is, but something to dimensionalize it and then name it and trademark it, you have an ownable, distinct point of view in the marketplace that nobody can take away from you.
You think about where you are in your journey to actually go to an attorney and ask them help to get trademarked.
Mhm.
It's you have a confidence, you have a clarity, you have something iconic. And where does that come from? From the second day you're in business? No, that comes from
That's right.
observing, having certain assumptions, and then figuring out, oh, that was a wrong assumption, and landing on something that's congruent to you, why you started this, and lessons learned on what works and what doesn't.
And what I like about what you just said, Steve, is that if you look at my early work back in 2014, my model has changed a lot. Why? I got smarter. I saw what worked. I saw what didn't work. And so I think there is this idea that experience creates greater wisdom and a more distinct point of view on that. So there's a life cycle in businesses, and I'm sure my model will look different 20 years from now, right? We learn, we grow, but it still requires some kind of a framework or a point of view that is adaptable, but it's still yours and still distinct. You're going to always evolve. You've evolved. I've evolved. But keeping, and the reason why, that's why it's the second thing. The first thing, having your purpose. I'll never evolve outside of my purpose. Like my Mindstate model is not going to go teach chefs how to make better souffles. Like that doesn't make any sense. That's not my purpose. That's not why I get up in the morning. I get up in the morning because marketing's broken, and it's so frustrating to see terrible marketing out there. I know the ramifications of bad marketing, and I can make a difference. That's my purpose, and that's why my model will always be centered around business and behavioral sciences. I won't stray outside of that.
Well, one of the things that your purpose revolves around is that you understand what a big risk it is for a business not to get their act together in this area. It's a matter of life and death, really, in a business. If you don't nail this, if you don't learn how to differentiate yourself, if you don't learn the why and how you can connect to the people that would appreciate what you do, you're in danger.
That's right. We have more businesses being opened up now than ever before, ever. All of those businesses are competitors. And so they are talking to your customers, and they're trying to steal your customers. And eventually you can have a great purpose, and you can have a very distinct point of view and go out of business. Why? It's because you're not connecting with your customers, because you don't really know them, which is that third one. You have to identify your target's heaven and their hell. And what I mean by that is that, when you're going to start thinking about your messaging, there's a lot of resistance to messaging. There's a lot of resistance to changing behaviors. It's a human condition, right? We don't like change a whole lot. So you need to understand your customer's heaven, like their idealized state, that life that they've always dreamed of, the thing that gets them up in the morning. You need to know that. And you also need to understand their hell, which is their biggest fears, what they're seeing in the marketplace right now, their pains. And I don't take this stuff lightly. And this could actually be the hardest part of business today. But it's being so empathetic with your customer that you understand their aspirational goals, or what we're going to call their heaven. Like those words, when you ask them, like, what are you looking for? What would be the ideal thing I can do for you? And they can tell that to you, and you know what that means to their lives, their families, their employees, those things. That can actually drive people to become much more focused on your messaging, because you're speaking to their aspirations or their heaven, their idealized state. Or maybe you got to understand the pains that they have, because I can have an idealized state doesn't mean that necessarily I take action on that. Why? Because we're so risk averse, man. We're so there's so much apprehension to changing things in people's lives that sometimes they need a little bit of a nudge. That's the hell. Now the hell can be where they are today. If they have an aspirational goal, you need to remind people that today they're not at their aspirations. They haven't reached the pinnacle of success that they're looking for. So tell them about that and how that hell is impacting other parts of their lives. Now, there are some times that people don't feel like they're in the pain right now, right? They don't know. They're like, my business is okay. It's not where I want it to be, but we're okay. So the next thing to do would be, okay, so if they're not in immediate hell right now, they're not about to lose their business, then what you need to do is paint the picture of what could be the worst thing. That's the second thing you can do. So what could be their hell? Well, there could be is that they bring in so much competition in the marketplace that nobody knows who I am. I'm spending way too much on advertising. I'm spending too many hours working to get fewer clients who want to pay me less. You can paint that hell for somebody. And when you show that hell and the heaven together, and then you say, I'm the bridge to get you from hell to heaven, or where you are today to your aspirational goals, that creates compelling advertising because you have told somebody they're in a position where they don't want to be in. You've given the vision of where they want to go, and now you just be the bridge. There's just the bridge, and your company is a bridge that can help them get to their aspirations. That's why it's so important to understand your target's heaven and their hell. And the clue here, and the big thing you got to do here, and this is why it takes so long, is understanding and articulating their heaven and their hell in a way that is better than they could articulate it themselves. When you have that level of empathy, when you are using words that they couldn't even think of to describe that pain that they're feeling or their hopes, when you can describe it better than they can, they will come to you again and again because they will feel like you understand them at such a deep intuitive level that there's nobody else they'd want to work with. It takes a lot of time, but when you have those words and you can really paint that picture of aspirationally where they want to go and where they are today, it makes a huge difference when people are seeing 6,000 advertisements.
When you talk about painting the picture of hell for them, one might think, well, that seems a little manipulative. But you have to understand, in order for you to be iconic, you have to have this conviction that it is part of your responsibility. It comes from your why you want to help them to see around the curve about this danger that's approaching them, that puts everything that they've invested in at risk. And you think of someone that's lukewarm in religion, they don't go out and evangelize, so to speak, right?
Yep.
And so that might seem, well, I don't know if I believe it enough. That's the difference from having conviction and becoming iconic to just being another Me Too business that has the same features, has the same whatever. What's the difference? I don't have the conviction to really convey it to you. That's excellent. Good stuff.
I love it. That's really, really critical. It's got to come from a real place of compassion by showing somebody the bad things if they don't take action on their business or in their personal life. It's got to come from a place of compassion and truth. And if you try to do it in a manipulative way, people see through it. There's an energy about that. People know that they're being manipulated, and it doesn't make you feel any better either. So it's a great, great point, Steve, that it's got to come from conviction and a positive, because you're trying to make a positive difference in the world. My difference in that world, as I said, it's not just that marketing is broken. It's because I think that bad marketing hurts businesses and it hurts their customers because it's convoluted with clutter, and it's just so confusing nowadays that I think it actually hurts people the way we do advertising now. We're doing too much of it. So without that conviction, then I'm never going to be successful if I can't convey that idea that I can help you not only grow your business, which you should be doing, and offer great products and services to your customers that they need, but we can do it in a way that is not manipulative. We can do it in a way that actually benefits people. The people who need your products, they're going to have that product served to them in a way that they know it's a great solution for them. It's just a win-win for everybody.
So this leads to your book. It's the reason that we're having the Mindstate Marketing Hour, but the mind state of your target is so important.
That's right. I think this is the critical part from getting somebody to the point of, hey, I'm considering you. Like, I've heard of you. I agree with your purpose. The point of view that you express that makes sense to me. And you're speaking to me in a way that you're tapping into some of these fears that I have, but also these aspirations I have. You can do all those things and still not have great iconic messaging. You can have great purpose and your messaging falls flat. Why? It's because it hasn't been optimized to the psychological mind state of your customers when they're thinking about a solution that comes from you. So in the book, Marketing to Mind States, we teach you a process, a 4-factor process that helps you understand these temporary moments of emotional arousal when you are more susceptible to influence because you are in kind of this emotional space. It's called System 1. And you are processing information emotionally. When people process information emotionally, they feel better about that information. They make better decisions. They feel more confident in those decisions. There's all these great benefits of messaging to somebody's mind state versus some kind of a segmentation or a persona. So if you can identify somebody's mind state, and we have lots of different shows that we've done on this that you can go back and watch, that will help you create the right messaging, the right words, the right frames, the right pictures that you should be placing in your advertising to connect with this psychological mind state. And when you do this, your advertising is going to feel intuitive, natural. Why? Because it's tapping into the gut feel or the intuition of your customers.
So when you develop ads that are timely expression of your timeless purpose, what's the value there?
Yeah. So I think sometimes that we have this purpose, and even with that, our ads get stale. So you might be sitting out there right now and you have a piece of it. Maybe it's a Facebook ad, maybe it's a TV commercial that's been out there for years. And at first it was kicking ass and you're getting great engagement. And it was kind of your go-to ad. You may have used this ad, and I know companies out there do this all the time. They have their kind of that ad that they can always count on to release. So it's like kind of the bedfellow ad almost. Like it's always there that if I need an ad, I need to drive sales, I'll go back into my bag of tricks. I'll grab that ad and place it out there, and they'll get a bump. I worked on Lay's potato chips where there was this ad that was about 12 years old. But whenever we needed a bump in sales, we could go to this ad, put it up on TV, and it gave a bump. So it was like the bellwether, kind of that is the ad. The problem with that is those things become dated. Your timeless purpose needs to have a timely expression. What's relevant in today's society, today's culture, today's technology. So if you're only talking about your timeless purpose, that can get lost sometimes in translation with the real today. Here's the way I think about it. So if you're Disney back in the 60s or maybe even 50s, you know that there's a couple of movies that are iconic. Cinderella, Snow White, are two that come to mind. There's a bunch of them, right? So the timeless purpose behind these, you can make the case that it has to do something with love. And ultimately, there's a point where, the heroine is saved by the prince. So the princess is saved by the prince. In today's culture, and that made sense in the 50s and maybe the 60s and maybe the 70s and maybe the 80s, but in today's culture, and you're seeing it now with all these different recuts of these classic tales, no longer is it relevant in our culture to be saved by a prince. Why? Because women are powerful, man. They roar. They don't need saving in today's culture. So what do? They retake that same idea and put it into a relevant, timely expression and makes it that same timeless purpose relevant today. I'm telling you this because your timeless purpose can sometimes get stale. And that's why we do these brand restages. That's why we talked about brand restaging last week. You can take your same timeless purpose, refresh it with today's kind of culture, with today's technology to make it feel new and intuitive and exciting, but still maintain the values that you had behind the purpose of your business.
In that book, Hitmakers, it talks about that your ads, in this case, your ads would want to feel familiar, but have a surprise twist. And that's what you're talking about.
I am. It's funny you said that. So one of my students last week talked about innovation. And we like to talk about these big breakthrough innovations, Steve. Like, we think about the iPod, how it changed music, or the iPhone that changed, lives. Those are great examples of innovations, and those are like so rare. Innovation is truly what you just said. Almost all innovation that's successful in market actually takes an 80-20 approach. 80% is basically the same, and they just give you something a little bit fresher. That 20% fresh, it's those things that feel familiar but fresh. People buy those things. If you go 50-50, sometimes it's too much. I don't know who you are. This is confusing. I'm scared. So it's funny because we always think about these massive new innovations, and actually what really successful in market is just 20% improvement. It's not anything more than that. And there's lots of data that proves that out.
Excellent. Well, now it's that time where we talk about these questions that people have submitted in. It's funny you said iOS, because question number one for you is, how will the new iOS changes influence my marketing? I don't know what those iOS changes are, so tell us what those are and why it's going to influence my marketing.
Well, first off, I am not an expert in kind of iOS 15, but I will tell you what I do understand. So with the new upgrades to the iOS system, anybody that uses an Apple computer or an Apple phone they now with the new software updates will have to opt in to being tracked, basically. So currently, it's always been in the past, you can see, basically anything I do on an iPhone, advertisers can find that information and target you. That has changed. So it's giving a lot of people a great deal of privacy, but as a marketer or as a business owner, this can impact you. So I encourage you to go find out more information. But I will tell you this. I will tell you that because of this update, that my open rates, there's a chance that my open rates on my emails will be overinflated. Because what's going to happen is that Apple's going to basically open up my emails. They're not reading it, but they're going to basically go through this process and look at emails. And it's going to show that somebody's reading my email, even though nobody is. So I think my open rates are going to go higher. So it made me think my advertising is going great on my email, but then underinflate my results on paid advertising. So let's say if you're doing Facebook ads and you're going to start seeing in your Facebook ads, all of a sudden your open rates drop dramatically. Why? It's not because people are not engaged with your ads. It's because they're no longer wanting to be tracked. And because of that, it's going to look at your metrics are going to get really funky here really soon if they haven't already. So the bigger point is this. What are you going to do about it? Right? What are you going to do about it? I'm sure technology solutions going to be pushed at you. I would tell you this. Don't worry so much about the metrics. Your job is to build compelling advertising so that no matter who sees it, maybe it's fewer numbers, you can't track the people, but whoever sees that advertising, it's more compelling because it's been optimized for those people that are looking for a solution in your industry. So focus on psychologically optimized content, and you can kind of lower the ramifications of all this new iOS changes that are going to impact businesses everywhere.
Think about it. It's coming more and more that what you create needs to really communicate. You understand them and they feel safe. And what are they going to do? I'm going to opt in to receive stuff from this person.
Yeah. You and I have been talking about this, Steve, right? It's this idea that the biggest point of differentiation is you being a human, like you treating people like human. And we always talk about technology is getting in between us and our customers. This is a great example of technology is going to get between us and our customer. How do we solve for that? Be a human being, man. Be a human being. Understand behavioral sciences. You and I have talked about it, and it looks like a year later, this stuff is actually happening.
It'll happen more and more.
It will.
All right. Number 2, how can psychology help increase the effectiveness of my call to action?
All right. I get this a lot. So a call to action for you guys who don't know, it's the point within a piece of advertisement that you're telling somebody kind of what to do. It's your call to action. What do you want them to do? Not every piece of marketing has call to actions, which blows my mind, but I get it. I think if you're a small business owner, every piece of advertisement you have, whether it's a small little post or it's a big email or even a TV commercial, you should have some sort of a call to action. Tell people what you want them to do. Why? It's because the world's really complex. And if you tell people what to do, you actually can get them to do it. Like you have to tell people, you have to be explicit. So how can psychology help with that? 2 things it works. One way is when you tell people what to do, you should also tell them when to do it. So telling people, hey, call me is interesting. And it tells people what to do. But when you say call me today, it tells your mind subconsciously what to do and when to do it. So first off, use psychology, take your call to action and put an immediacy, put a time pressure on it. Say something like, something to the point of tell the mind what to do and when to do it. Put time on it. The second thing you can do is we talk about this in marketing and mind states, cognitive heuristics. If you place a trigger or a cognitive heuristic near a call to action, you can amplify its impact. So for instance, you can use this thing called scarcity effect. I actually just did it. Scarcity effect is this heuristic, this kind of rule of thumb that generally people place value on things that are scarce in nature. So what you can do is limited time only, call today. That one phrase right there provides not even just enough momentum for the mind to know what you want me to do and when to do it, but it's giving me the immediacy. It's creating a trigger that makes me want to act today. So when you marry a heuristic with a call to action, that's the best way to use psychology to make your call to action more effective. And you have more effective calls to action, you have more phone calls, and hopefully you have more sales.
Excellent. Even though your mind knows limited time offer, please call today. Even though your mind kind of knows that that's expected, it's still effective because it feels actually well thought out, and it feels okay, you've helped me not have to think about when I should call, basically.
It is. It's just better marketing.
How can social psychology be used in marketing? What is social psychology first?
So that's great. I was going to start with there. So for those of you who don't know social psychology is the study of people's interaction with other people, groups, or even society. So it's a branch of regular psychology, but it's really looking at group interactions. So social psychology is actually one of the 3 major branches of psychology, I think. Like it's big. You should be knowing about how people interact with other people. It's really important to understand this. Now, how is it used in marketing? It's used all over the place in marketing. So if you're doing any social media marketing, the word social should tell you something, that it's important to understand social psychology to make your social marketing work best. Why? When people are on social media, they're interacting with other people. Understanding those dynamics of maybe when you're posting, an advertisement inside of a group, understanding those group dynamics and what they find acceptable and what they find not acceptable is really important to make sure that your marketing works really well for you. Another thing I think about would be virality of ads, right? Trying to go viral. There is no virality in ads if there is no social psychology in that ad, because it requires somebody to want to take this ad and send it to another person. And that person sends it to 2 people. And those 2 people send it to 4 people. See what I mean? You have to understand social psychology and group dynamics and how to get something. And Jonah Berger's done a lot of work in this space to try to work in that space, as well as the last one I guess comes to mind would be influencer marketing, right? When it's one person that's going to take your product, some influencer, and message it out to all of their followers. There is social psychology in that. So as I think about it, if you want to go viral, you should know something about social psychology. If you do any influencer marketing, you should know a little bit about social psychology. And if you're going to be on doing any social media advertising, you should know about social psychology. It's a really big branch of psychology that has a lot of great things you can use to make your business more effective.
So tell us about the Mindstate marketing class, master class, actually. Master. You want to be a master at what you're doing. You want to be iconic. What's the first step? You got to get Will's book. And where can you learn it? Why not let him teach you?
That's right. So we designed a 12-hour course, all video-based, do-it-yourself on your time when it's convenient for you, that you can go and learn deeper principles from marketing to mind states on your own. What's really cool about this masterclass is it allows you to not only do quizzes and a lot of different downloads, but it actually shows you how I use these principles to design a brand from the ground up called Wicked Crisps. So it takes you through an entire case study of how they came up with the logo, how we came up with the brand name, how we came up with the design of the website. It takes you through this whole system of steps to get to a place where brand new invention, don't know how to sell it, to becoming one of the fastest growing snack brands in the US. So it's a really good way if you want to get beyond the book to kind of build a world-class kind of business. It's a great step in that direction.
So looking on the shelf behind you, I see the Gators helmet. How'd they do last week against Tennessee?
Yes. We did great. I was a little nervous in the first quarter, but just like they usually do with Tennessee, by the second quarter, they kind of settle down. The defense looks great. Our rushing is insane right now. And this week we play Kentucky, so we should have good things for the Gators coming out in this next game.
Then I noticed there's a book on the wall. Is that like an old book? There.
Which one? This one right here? Wait,
yeah, that one right there. That old. And I don't see it. No, the one on the wall.
Oh, the one on the wall. Yeah, I don't see that one in my picture. Yeah, that is the original copy of Marketing to Mind States. I always encourage authors to do this. So on the day I launched the book, Steve, I don't know if you did this with your book. I didn't look at any media. I didn't take any phone calls because my agent, my publisher said, this is the only time you're going to launch your book. So what I did was I had a party at the house and I made a poster of the book cover and had people sign it. So I can't take that off the wall. I mean, that's OG right there.
OG. All right, great show. Will, I think you know what you're talking about. You may have to write another book, brother. You're becoming iconic. When was the moment that you thought you were becoming iconic?
Yeah. It was I can almost tell you the exact date. It was in June of 2019. So all that prep work that I've been doing since, arguably I came into the marketplace back in 1999. But in June of 2019, I stood on stage in front of over 2,000 digital marketers to tell them my philosophy. Brand new group of people who never knew me. I'm not, a massive, famous person, but that's the day I felt iconic. Why? Had a purpose that I told people on stage. I had a very unique point of view on stage. And when those things came together, I had a message that resonated. A bunch of books were sold that day. And I thought to myself, that's the day that I was worthy. When I talk about iconic, being worthy of attention and praise, that was the day. I got a big picture. I should put that picture up one day, but it's a little self-serving, but it was a cool picture of me with thousands of people in the audience. It's pretty cool.
Well, that was the day that your distinct point of view was affirmed.
Affirmed. That's right. I built it from years worth of practice. That's a great point. But It was affirmed that day. Yep.
All right. That's another great episode of the Mindstate Marketing Hour, where you've learned how to use science to connect with your clients. And hopefully you've got Will's book, Marketing the Mind States. And you want to learn more, you need to go to mindstategroup.com. Be sure to check out his Mindstate. Where is that? The Mindstate Marketing Masterclass.
Yep.
Reach out, connect with Will, ask some questions. Let's do some good work for your brand too. So, and we'll see you next week at the same time. Will, any last words?
That's it. Let's work together to make you iconic. So that's what we're trying to do here, and we can help.
All right. Be iconic. I don't know if ironic. I was trying to think of something that rhymes, but maybe next time. So let me get this. Let me get the outro going here. Where's our little outro? Here we go. So stay tuned. We'll see you next week on the Mindstate Marketing Hour.